I'll give you a million guesses. How do you think The Flash by Mark Waid Book 2 starts? Well, not only not with Mark Waid, but also not with Flash. It's fucking Green Lantern. It's also hilariously horny. Like, we're talking boobs, we're talking cowgirl, and heck, I'll give you a billion guesses on what happens next. Oh, wow, you actually got it. It is monkey futuristic society being thrown to the brink of revolution. This is page 3, by the way. Actually, Gorilla City first appeared in Flash 106 all the way back in 1959. I'm sorry, I just don't really care. Now, to be fair, we got Big Head. I think some people would say, like, why complain about just purely extra content? But it's just so unrealistic to ask new readers to either do A, this much research to familiarize themselves, or B, put up with like this level of filler. I mean, spoiler alert, this gorilla shit is like 100 pages long. It's not like one issue. And might I remind you, this is a fucking Green Lantern comic. Flash is barely in this and Mark Waid isn't even the writer. I shit you not, this might be one of the single worst issues I have read so far. It has next to no redeeming qualities. So why include this at all? Well, the reason is at the very last page, Flash shows up and the following issue we get his day's perspective with eventually converging back to this exact moment. How readers at the time ever kept up with this is just like beyond me. Y'all were really dedicated. So now we get actual Flash and actual Mark Waid. So what was Flash's day at the same time looking like? Well, it was pretty cute, I'm not gonna lie. I really appreciated Mark Waid a lot more coming from that Green Lantern issue because while he does stay within pretty safe limits, he knows them and executes them pretty well. It's solid action, it's solid dialogue, overall a nice time. And of course, we end this issue at the same moment of Flash and Green Lantern meeting up to stop the Big Head guy and the Gorilla Uprising. It's just a lot of time for pretty little plot, but I will say throughout this, I am digging the art. And the panels, likewise, are really solid. Call this shit Flash by Greg LaRoque. I don't think anyone who recommended this run was having these types of issues in mind, so I feel safe in saying that they are just not that good. The best thing I can say about it is it does have fun with itself, like here when everyone swaps powers, but it just kind of sits in this weird middle ground of like it's not so lighthearted I'm smiling all the way through, but it's not serious enough to keep me glued to my seat. These double page folds though, damn. I'm not gonna sit here and say like this was terrible, but I was just like thinking the whole time like how many other better comics I could be reading right now. Our next issue is a definite step up though. I think one of my favorite parts about Mark Waid's style is his cold opens. Like this part when Flash is like, I'm the fastest man alive. Each second, those last hours, but bank lines, those are eternity. And it's just like these kind of cute moments that really do well to kind of ease me in, and even throughout like some of my least favorite issues, the cold opens usually hit. The core story is standard fare. Flash has got to stop the supervillain with the super MacGuffin to get the girl, but like, yeah, it is all expected. It's still executed pretty decently. And again, put some respect on Greg LaRoque's name. There's this awesome panel where like it's like the MacGuffin is this stone and like inside the stone you get the backstory of it, and I don't know, I adore the colors, I adore the panels. It's all really, really good. I would say one thing that really surprised me about Flash in general from the last video is the amount of like physics jargon is used, but here it's much better. Like the supervillain here, his whole shtick is that he can change elements on the periodic table, and it's used really, really well to give a lot of flair to these fights. Coupled with a nice cliffhanger, we got ourselves a pretty solid ass issue. These are really difficult to talk about because they just constantly tease me with something great. Like for example, there's this Saul Goodman type of guy and he's accused of stealing some major artifact, but Flash has to protect him because they're trying to kill him, and he gives Flash this gift in this watch, and inside of the watch is the stolen artifact, and it's really cleverly framed in a lot of these panels, and there's a lot of dialogue with double meaning, and it's really good, it's really cool. The centerfolds, again, always hit, but then just as I'm getting into it, we go back with no characterization for Wally or his love interest, and the payoff is so muted as a result. I've been doing a lot of reflection with this character because I feel so frustrated. Like there are so many issues and so many comics that I've read on this channel that I've enjoyed way less. Like there are, like I would say this is better than most 60s Spider-Man that I read on the channel. And it's better than almost all Wonder Woman. But those two characters, Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, I like empathize with. I feel so much closer to than Flash, despite Flash having just better material in my critical opinion. So I really am struggling to reconcile those two. I would say that the closest parallel is like Spawn, maybe, but I'm just like, why can't I connect the dots? There's this weird layer of abstraction that makes Wally not really feel as human, I guess, and it does get better, a spoiler alert, in the video, because the issues get a lot better, but I don't know, it's very strange. I don't really know where I want to take this. I don't know why it's happening. I was trying to think about it, but it's really is inhibiting my enjoyment. Maybe it's the writing, maybe it's the action, maybe it's like the time travel stuff, but I just cannot get myself to, feel really intentionally about this character, and I don't know why. Thankfully, though, we are finally starting the main arc of this volume, beginning with a nice little Christmas-themed side quest. Despite not being Christian, I feel like you gotta respect stories like this. They go to Jay's, the original Flash from the 50s' place, they hang up the tree, it's just so cute. How do you read this and not smile? I will never hate on like just purely wholesome issues like this, but on the very last page, there's a knock on the door, and it's not Santa, because we find out it's Barry motherfucking Allen, who last we heard died to save the world. This is the real meat and potatoes, and I am kind of shocked to say that Jay is actually my favorite Flash so far. He's just like this sweet grandpa and a great foil to Wally, who's a little bit more skeptical on how Barry could have come back to life. Also, the Pied Piper shows up. Go watch the Brass Mangoes vid on him, it's fire. It's definitely the Wally and Barry show, though this did kind of make me want to read some more Jay-centered stories, so if there are any ones that have kind of like stood the test of time, please let me know. We get a pretty sizable honeymoon period now that Barry's back, and I can just tell this was stretched out as much as possible. If the return of Barry Allen was a self-contained story, it would probably be like 40% of the length. I do really like that they all team up, but in this issue there's just a general lack of stakes. Nothing is really happening. However, it's revealed that Barry might not be his old self, and it's cool, yeah, but it's like literally pretty much the whole issue in terms of plot. That's it. The next issue, though, we hit the ground running. We start off right as a fight has begun, and as Wally gets stuck in this force field, Barry has the chance but refuses to save him. He leaves him to die, and while I have issues with the pacing, spending so much time with the gang as this cool, cute, wholesome big three does make the betrayal hit a lot harder than I have conveyed it to you. Wally does survive, albeit barely, but this is his mentor, his namesake, and as a result, Wally's world is shattered. It's a pretty unique plot that is really relatable for normal folk who like maybe had a role model who they maybe shouldn't have been looking up to. Kind of, but we'll get there. Oh, what's that? You want to continue this awesome arc? Well, I hope you like Green Lantern! Like, yes, I understand this needs to be here in the volume because this is the next part of Barry's return arc. But why the unnecessary flip-flop between series, especially with no Mark Waid? The quality is an instant step down. I straight up forgot the plotline to this issue. I had to reread it because it was just that boring. A lot of people have recommended Green Lantern, and I just assume that it's not this, because this is just completely unengaging. Anyways, Barry now betrays Green Lantern. We get some solid enough action out of it, though. I think the black mark on this otherwise pretty great storyline is the length. I hope you like the conflict of Wally's hero not being a true hero after all, and I did too, like the first few times, but this monologue is repeated over and over and over again. So while Wally is sulking, Jay, like the absolute Chad he is, tries to stop Barry. And this is probably one of my favorite fights in the series so far. There's like a lot of like, I don't want to call it physics types of fights because that sounds super lame, but it's really cool how they play with the different concepts of speed and velocity and acceleration, and it gives a really unique flair. I think what's really great about this creative decision too is Wally finally gets to flex his mental muscles. Like, he does kind of all the detective work to discover what the hell's actually going on with Barry. So I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is we are now getting rudely interrupted by a 60-page Flash annual that has absolutely nothing to do with this otherwise well done arc. The good news is I'm skipping that shit. I learned my lesson, not doing this, we're going back to the action. Back to the good stuff. I think one of the best things as a new reader about the return of Barry Allen is I don't know a single Flash villain. Flash's iconography ends with his suit, so using Barry as the primary antagonist is a great way for me to step into the series. And Barry isn't here to fill some like other vacuum. He's genuinely a fantastic villain, not only because of his absolute power, which is, greater than Wally's, but also because you just don't know what quite went wrong. Is he gonna be redeemed? Will he die again? Is it really him at all? Now, spoilers for a 30-year-old comic, Barry is not actually Barry. He's this other guy from the future who is posing as Barry and is able to impersonate him so well because in that time period, his autobiography is as well known as like Obama, I don't know, someone famous. But if I may, I want to push back because I really wanted it to actually be Barry. I think having him not be the real deal while preserving his earlier sacrifice does kind of strip a lot of Wally's character arc about reevaluating his Flash identity. Also, Reverse Flash does sound familiar, but I don't understand why he's reverse. Like, shouldn't he like be slower or something? I want to give a shout out again to just like the little things in this issue. Like Waid's cold open narration all happens as Reverse Flash is punching Wally in slow motion. And while I don't really care about the finer details to this degree, the time travel plotline and logic are pretty masterfully articulated. It makes sense within the context of his like insane lore, and it took me reading a lot of wikis to fully understand it, but it's really cool. This right here is the best writing of the volume, the best action in the series for me, and an all-around banger. The only thing I didn't really get with this like time loop is how Reverse Flash looks exactly like Barry. I don't know, maybe it's like future tech. I kind of wish they spent more time on the future because it's genuinely pretty interesting, and I would say maybe the only part of this whole last compilation that I would call too brief. So Wally defeats Reverse Flash in a really nice moment for his character. It's kind of my first time seeing Wally feel like truly brave since his origin. And the conclusion of sending Reverse Flash back to his time is one that hits pretty well. There must have been something we forgot. Nah, if we forgot, it couldn't have been that important. Where is Linda's character? There are pretty much no compelling side characters aside from Jay, and the world that these issues take place in just feels very shallow as a result. Despite having gorillas, time travel, big heads, and cowgirl, it just feels so empty. I would really compare it to like Ghost of Tsushima if you've ever played that game. And what I mean by that is like usually the inner circle of stuff is good, but as soon as you kind of explore the periphery, it's a bit of a letdown. So in this volume, we got some good stuff and we got some not so good stuff. Am I interested in reading more? Eventually, but there are like 8 of these types of volumes, and I just would have liked a little bit more in the 1,000 total pages that I've read. I make all of these videos from your lovely rec, so please drop me some, preferably DC or indie. I realized I've been a little bit too Marvel-centric recently. On that note, next time though, I am finally gonna do it. I'm finally starting Superman. As of the making of this video, I'm about halfway through and I'm loving it, so I'm really excited to make that for y'all, and subscribe if you don't want to miss that. As for Flash by Mark Waid Part 2, there's just a little bit too much fat on this bone. There is meat too. I did have my fun with the return of Barry Allen, but it kind of averages out to around a 5 out of 10. Hope to see you in the comments and hope you have a good one. Peace.